So I decided to unplug the connector that goes to the fan assembly, and this doesn't look very promising. There is a bunch of like what looks to be like dielectric grease inside of here, and some slight, I don't know, it's hard to tell if that's just gunk inside the pins or burning. I can't really tell. So I decided to step away from the PCM and the wiring and all that stuff. Why? Because that's the complicated stuff. That's the expensive stuff. Let's keep it simple, stupid. Okay, so we know that this fan assembly has a high failure rate. Okay, so let's try to focus on this. And one other thing that caught my attention is when I was looking at the wiring diagram, I noticed something that I didn't notice before. This car not only has a low speed, high speed, but it also has a medium speed fan, and it's actually this relay right here, and I didn't notice that. So of course I put my relay jumper on it, and it did nothing when I activated it. So this one turns on our low speed, this one turns on our high speed, but the medium, it does nothing at all. So I went ahead and unplugged the connector from the fan assembly, and you can see the resistor right here is hanging on for dear life. Anyway, with the connector unplugged, there was a ton of dielectric grease inside of here, which isn't good, guys. I mean, you don't need that much. So anyway, you can see we have 4 pins right here. This large one on the end is going to be our constant ground. So this ground is always here, and depending on which relay turns on, whether it's a low, medium, or high, whichever order, I'm just going out of order here, guys, it sends power to each pin. So you would have, like, this could be our high speed, this could be our medium speed, and this could be our low speed. I hope that makes sense. So our ground is supposed to stay there at all times, and depending on which relay. So let's go ahead and turn on what I believe is the low speed relay. Let's make sure that's in there pretty good. So one of these pins should have power right now, and there we have it. If we check the other two, nothing and nothing. So let's turn off the low speed. Let's go over to the medium. So now the medium is on. Now a different pin should have power, and there we have it. So we got power here now, we got nothing there and nothing there. That means when we turn on our high speed, it's going to be this large one right at the end. So let me turn off the medium. We'll switch over our relay jumper to the high speed, turn that on, and now if everything is correct, this last one should have power, and there we have it. And these don't, but our ground remains constant. I hope that makes sense. So what that tells me is, even though I can't figure out why we're not getting the command to turn on the low or the high, we know that we have a problem here with this fan assembly and the resistor because medium speed doesn't work. Let's go ahead and fix this, and we may find that it fixes all of this mess. That there is no reason to be digging into all of this and, you know, tracing on wires on a PCM and blah, blah. So on Rock Auto's website, I did find a hose. It's like $10 before shipping. So it wasn't that hard, guys. I understand when you're working at a shop, they would really have like 2 options, like go to the dealer or you know, whoever their supplier is, whatever auto parts store, you know, like O'Reilly's or Advance Auto, whatever. I'm sure it could be difficult for them to get that part, but someone like me who orders a ton of stuff from Rock Auto, there it goes right on their website, no problems at all. So it's the next day and I got this Sonic back in the garage. One thing I forgot to check yesterday is if we apply power to the medium speed relay, is it going to turn on the fan? And we couldn't really test that because the fan medium speed just doesn't work. So I've substituted a blower motor and I've connected it. As you can see, this large one right here is going to be our ground, and on the left pin, that's going to be our medium speed. So once I hit this switch, that blower motor should turn on. There you have it. Oh, that's kind of scary. That's why I had to hold this thing. So yeah, our medium speed load side from the relay to the fan connector is good. All right, so at this point, we know that the cooling fan is bad, right? It needs to get replaced. But something is still bothering me because I know if I replace this cooling fan, the system is still not going to work because we basically don't have our control side, and it's just eating me alive because I know if I were to replace this cooling fan, it's still going to be a problem, and I can't give a customer a car like this and saying, oh yeah, I did the work, but the car's still not fixed. So I got inside the car, I turned on the AC, and like in any car, whenever you turn on the AC, the cooling fan is supposed to turn on, at least on a low speed. This car, nothing at all. All right, so at that point, I'm like, I need to look at this wiring diagram. So I started looking at the diagram, And I noticed that there's 2 more relays tied into this cooling system that is separate or not part of this fuse blocks right here. So the wiring diagram showed that it should be in a separate panel from this. So I started looking around, and sure enough, guys, I found it hanging right here at the bottom. Took this little cover right off of it. There was 2 relays inside of here. I pulled out one of them. By the way, it was very tough to get this thing out of here. And look at this, full of green crusties. So I'm assuming once I pull out this second one, it's going to be the same thing, full of corrosion. So let me go ahead and get this out of here. And there we have it. Sorry about the noise, guys. I can't control what's going on in my neighbor's house. Here goes the relay that I just pulled out right now. So I'm going to see if my relay tester can accommodate these type of relays, and let's see if we could test them. Got my relay tester out. I don't like putting things inside of my tool with all this corrosion, but I'm just going to try to like lightly put this in here until it's making contact. So we got it on 4-pin. We're going to go ahead and push the button. I believe this thing tests a relay 10 times. And if there's a fault in any one of those 10 tests, it's basically going to fail the relay and give us a red light if it's bad. You could hear it clicking. All right, so that gave us a green light. Even though it has corrosion on it. Here goes the other one, the one that looks far worse. Okay, test it. Haha, it's not even clicking. Immediately gave us a red light. Hopefully you guys can see this. There we go. That's better. Let's go ahead and test it again. It won't even test it, guys. This relay is no good. So what can we do? What can we do? At least we know this relay is kind of working. We'll go ahead and test it one more time. Obviously, guys, the relay's junk. Okay, it's got corrosion on it. I would recommend replacing it, but you know, we're in a pinch here. So again, green light. But here's a problem. We have one bad relay, one good relay. But what about this? Is there too much corrosion inside of here? You know what I'm saying? Is this still going to work? Well, we'll find out. In the meantime, I want to see. No, it doesn't look like it. I was going to see if any of these relays match up. One of these might. And we'll see if there's something not important that we could just kind of substitute right now. At least I'm trying to get this fan to turn on. I want the ECU to turn on this fan, okay? I'm not saying this is permanent. This is just basically testing. So I don't know what this relay is for. Okay. And that is not the same type of relay. So no go. I don't think I have any spares. Let me see what I have here. This is... no, that's different. Or is it? No, it's the same. That is the same. Let's see if this works. What a coincidence, right? First of all, it has an X on it. That's not good, right? First of all, let's go ahead and put it in my relay tester. See if it passed the test. I don't know why it has an X on it, guys. I really don't know. Oh, crap. That one failed immediately. I guess there's a reason why there's an X on it. I don't even know why I kept it. I should have just thrown it out. That's funny. Alright, so I don't have a relay that fits this, but I do have a relay jumper of the same type. So I went ahead and put it in this first one, which would be relay number 2. This is labeled relay 1, and this is relay 2. The key is on right now. If I go ahead and hit this, there goes our low-speed fan. Okay, so let me go ahead and put my relay jumper on this side. And on relay 1, absolutely nothing. And the reason why I'm thinking we get nothing out of this one is because this one controls a medium speed relay, and we already know that the medium speed on this fan assembly is no good. So if I were to go through the trouble of disconnecting that connector right there and putting like a test light on it, whenever I hit, let me be clear, a test light for the medium speed on that connector, whenever I hit this switch, that test light should turn on. I'm not going to go through all that trouble, guys. So what can we do in the meantime? We know even though this relay has corrosion on it, we know it still works. And relay 1 or socket 1 doesn't do anything because that's tied to the medium, which the medium speed fan is no good. So what we could do is relay number 2, this socket right here, still activates that low speed fan, and this relay still works. So let's go ahead and swap it over and put the working relay into relay number 2 right here. And technically, if everything is working, at some point, the ECM should be able to kick on this low speed fan. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and start up the engine now. Let's turn on the AC, see if we can get the fan to turn on right away. The AC's on. And nothing. I got everything in place. You know what, let's see if we could command the low speed fan to turn on with the scanner now. All right, so I got my scanner reconnected. I'm in cooling fan 1, as you can see, relay 1. I'm gonna go ahead and turn this on. And I just heard the fan turn on. So you see it says on right there. And there goes our cooling fan, guys. Turn this off. So that's a really good proof of concept. I'm pretty confident that if we replace the fan assembly, replace both of the relays, and clean out this relay holder right here, I don't know what to call it, relay housing, all of this stuff is gonna work. So what I plan on doing is cleaning the terminals inside of there. I have like little diamond tip terminal cleaners, and I'll go ahead and clean that out the best I can, and then I'll spray it with contact cleaner. So once it's all cleaned up, 2 new relays and a fan assembly should fix this car right up. I'm really happy that the ECM can now control that low speed fan. The ECM can now control that, and it should be able to keep the coolant temperatures under control for the most part, because we have to order parts now. So it'll be about a week before this car is back here and I'm able to replace that radiator, the relays, and that jerry-rigged hose back there. So this is a tool I was talking about. It's basically like a 3-piece set, and it's diamond coated, so it's meant for cleaning terminals. You would just go ahead and put it inside of there. It's kind of like sandpaper for inside of terminals, and it cleans corrosion off. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that right now on all of these pins inside of here, and then once I'm done with this stage, I'll move on to the contact cleaner. So I'm just about done here, and as you can see, this looks way better. So after I was done with the diamond tip tool, I came in here with some like contact electrical cleaner, sprayed it down, and then I used a acid brush to go ahead and wipe away the corrosion, and this is what we're left with. It looks way better, and I'm pretty happy with that. Now I had to apply that same 2-step process to the relay, the one we're actually going to use. Of course, it's still bad. It needs to get replaced also, because there most likely is corrosion inside of here just as well. But I didn't want to put something that looked nasty like this one inside of something that I just finished cleaning. Unfortunately, that lean code, guys, it did not take long for it to come back. So even though I fixed that vacuum leak, you know, before we were like, I can't remember, I want to say like close to the 30s on the short-term fill trim, somewhere around there. And now we're hovering like 15 to like 18, 19, even sometimes 20. So it's still high, it's wide, still flagging a lean code. But yeah, I don't know what's causing it. And it's definitely a vacuum leak, because when it reaches like that 20 short-term fill trim, if I push the accelerator pedal, the numbers come right back down to 0. So it's definitely a vacuum leak. So once again, I did another smoke test on the system, and for the most part, it was sealed. I mean, it wasn't 100% sealed. The only thing I could see leaking, what appears to me, is a gasket for the intake manifold, because I get smoke coming all alongside here, and it's very faint. It's very small amount, but it's definitely a leak. The smoke machine is showing me that, and it's showing me that it's not a sealed system. So I don't know, guys. I I really don't want to put a intake manifold gasket on this thing, but I don't know what else, and it sucks. I was hoping that that vacuum hose that they left unplugged on accident, that would have fixed the problem, but guys, it's more than one problem going on here. So yeah, it wasn't just as simple as plugging in a vacuum hose, unfortunately. But I think that's going to be a problem for another day. We got our hands full already with the whole cooling system and, everything else that's going on. So we need to focus on this stuff first, and then we'll come back to that link code some other day. So I got this thing zip tied up here. I just have to go ahead and trim that off. But the engine is running, and look at that. The fan just turned on. So it's working just as I thought it would. And yeah, it'll be all set for now until it comes back in like a week or so to put the new parts on it. So it's 3 days later, and we are back with this Chevy Sonic. We have our new cooling fan, we have the 2 relays for the fan assembly, and we have our coolant hose that goes to the heater core. Unfortunately, the check engine light is back on again. The first code we have is a catalyst efficiency, which this car has always pretty much had that problem. But also our lean code is back. So if we look at the fuel trims here, look at the short term. It still looks great, just how I gave it to the owner. Look at that short term. Looks good to me. But the long term is staying pegged really high. I don't understand this. This doesn't make sense to me. Maybe someone else can explain this to me. But I always thought that the short term is what drives and determines the long term. Like, say if the short term was, pegged high for a long time, it would start to drive up the long term. Or if it was pegged really low, it would start to pull the long term, negative. But that's not the case here, because we could see that the short term is in a good window. Okay, it's in a good number or standing point, yet it's not affecting the long term. Why is the long term being pegged high like that? I don't understand it. I really don't. It's driving me crazy. Before we go any further, I want to show you guys the relays. The owner got in the zone, auto zone, and I don't even blame him this time, because he went to 3 or 4 different dealers and he had a bad experience there. They weren't very helpful or nice with him, and like the final dealer that he went to, he finally got some information. Basically, these relays are discontinued, so they're hard to find. They said they could get them some, but it would take over 2 weeks or something like that for it to come in, because they would basically have to order the stock of a different dealer and have it shipped to his dealer. And these things are over $70 each. So yes, you are looking at potentially $140 right here before taxes for 2 freaking relays. That's crazy. I told him I'd honestly rather go to a junkyard and pull these off of another car before paying that type of money. So he went to AutoZone and he got lucky. You can see the boxes look different, but they have the same exact part number. I got my relay tester out here. Everything's set up. So let's go ahead and test each relay before we put it on the car. All right, that checks out. Put in the next one. That one checks out also. That's good. So I'm gonna go ahead and install these relays right now, just so we don't forget about them. So I ended up getting off the hose that shop had to make themselves. You could see their connection right here. And guys, what I was talking about is this just makes another failure point, if that makes any sense. There should only be 2 connections, one here and one here. This is what they were trying to replicate, as you can see. I got the old fan assembly out, and this thing was a complete nightmare to remove. What a pain in the butt. All the turbo crap just makes it way more difficult than doing the ones that aren't turboed, of course. So I got the new fan in place, and it's pretty much bolted down. As you can see, I got the electrical connector plugged in. I reattached the battery. Let's go ahead and test everything before we commit to putting everything back together. Let's start with this one on the lower bottom right here. I think this is the low speed. Let's turn on the relay. There goes our low speed fan. Now this one right here is going to be the medium, I believe. So that fan has just about stopped. Let's go ahead and turn on the medium. Medium works. And by the way, I noticed the fan sounds different. It sounds really smooth. So the last one is going to be right here. This is going to be the high speed. All right, I'm going to go ahead and turn it on now. There we have it. Everything works, and like I told you before, I got the brand new relays popped in here already. So that's all set. I'm really happy that everything works as it should. Now let me go ahead and wrap up this job and put everything back together. So when it comes down to these Sonics, and I think even the Cruise, I've always had a hard time bleeding out the cooling system because there's always air trapped in there, and I could spend a ton of time. I'm talking, you know, 30, 40, 50 minutes letting the car run, trying to bleed out the cooling system. It's an absolute nightmare. And one day I was watching One Auto's YouTube channel. I'll put a card in the top right hand corner right here, where he was working on a Chevy, and he showed that you can remove a little screw on top of the radiator to let the air escape as you're pulling out the system. And I was like, oh my god, I never knew that. That's an absolute game changer. So I came over here and I couldn't find the valve he was showing. And then I remembered where he's at. His cars are right-hand drive, so the steering wheel is on this side. So I figured, let me check the opposite end of the radiator. And sure enough, right above the upper radiator hose, you're gonna find this. You unscrew it, and there goes your, basically a bleed valve, so the air can escape as you're pouring in the coolant. Genius, I love it. Can't tell you how much time I've wasted because of this. So I got mostly everything put back together. Now, as far as the hose back here, I think the reason why this thing ruptured is because there's supposed to be some sort of a support. It's basically like a zip tie. It supports the hose so it's not rubbing or bouncing around. You can see there's like a boss right there. And there is a zip tie. It has like this little Christmas tree thing, so I could push in and then zip tie into the hose. There's supposed to, it was back there. I had to remove this, but you could see how it's broken. I didn't break that off. It was already like that. So I don't know if the shop who made up that thing right there, if they ended up breaking it off and they didn't, you know, bother replacing it, or if it was already broken off and that's the reason why the hose ruptured in the first place. Anyway, I got a friend that stopped by one day and gave me some of these things. So I got them right here. And I was looking all over my garage because I'm like, man, I know he gave me some. And it turns out, here they go. This is what I was talking about. So you can see like that Christmas tree end is going to go into the intake manifold, and then it's going to loop around and zip tie onto the hose, so it holds the hose in place and it's not bouncing around and rubbing on everything. So let me go ahead and install this and I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so that zip tie fit perfectly, guys. Look at that thing. Just like from factory, retains the hose and it's pushed into the intake manifold. Perfect. I love it. I'm so glad he gave me those little zip ties, and I'm actually gonna go ahead and buy more of these for myself. So maybe I could just find a whole pack of them. These are extremely useful. I mean, if you're trying to do the job the right way and not hack things, you get what I'm saying? So I'm really happy about that. All right, so I got the key turned on, got my scanner connected. We are in cooling fan relay number 1. Sorry about the glare, guys. Let's hit the on button. Communicating. And there goes our fan. That seems like a low speed to me, so I'm gonna go ahead and turn that off. Let me turn off my lamp, maybe get rid of this glare a little bit. All right, so that's already a success because before we could not control the fans from the scanner. So now this one says cooling fan relays 2 and 3. I don't know what it's going to do. Let's give it a go. That seems like a medium speed. Let's turn that off. And let's do cooling fan relays 1, 2, and 3. I'm assuming this is going to be the high speed. It turned the high speed on, but only for like 2 seconds. And then I heard the relay click right here and it shut off. Let's try it again, see what happens. There we have it. Turn it off. Okay, everything seems to be working. I'm gonna go ahead, start up the engine, and guys, I think I'm pretty much done here. I don't think I'm gonna chase this lean condition any further. Unfortunately, he's gonna have to take it to a shop. I've done all I can, and I'm sorry, but I can't fix everything, guys. As much as I wish I could, I can't. And I'm not about to sit here and throw parts at the car. I've done a ton of work to this car and the car drives absolutely great. It's just that one little hiccup that we can't seem to get rid of, that link code. And even though the short-term field trims look really good, those long-term field trims just don't want to go away. Like I said, it blows my mind, but I'm sure someone else out there knows more than I do and could probably explain it, or give me some direction on what to look into that might be causing this issue. But I'm done, so I'm gonna go ahead and take it out for a test drive and make sure the cooling system is properly bled. Well, before I take it out for a test drive, I wanted to get the engine up to temperature and make sure that that cooling fan turns on all by itself, and it did. So everything's looking good here.